Consideration for the Monona Grove development for the approval of the preliminary plat proposed Shady Grove subdivision located at 2863 County Highway BB. This was also approved with some conditions by the Plan Commission. Is anybody here from Monona Grove Development that would want to provide? Robert is.
Robert Proctor, I represent the developer Monona Grove Development. I was fixing the covenants today and I had to change the date from 2017 on the first draft of covenants that were approved here during the original time through. So I don't believe there's anybody in the crowd that needs a presentation, so I'm happy to present, but if you have any questions, we've accepted all the comments and are addressing all the comments of staff, and we'll have made all the requested changes. So.
Okay. Aaron, anything to add? And again, talk to this plan. But.
Yeah, I would recommend approval with the conditions in the village action report, which include planning and engineering conditions. So I'm open for questions about any of them, and as is my intention.
Okay. We don't have anybody registered to speak on this one from the public, so
I'll make a motion
okay.
to approve the request from Monona Grove Development Incorporated for approval of a preliminary plat for the proposed Shady Grove subdivision located at 2863 County Highway BB with the conditions listed in the village action report.
I second that.
Okay, it's been motion and second. Any further discussion by the board? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
The next one, we had a busy night at the Plan Commission, is discuss and consider a request from the Monona Grove School District to rezone approximately 53.7 acres at 4490 Bus Road from rural holdings to SRI, single family residential. Again, this was approved by the Plan Commission. Dan, you want to?
I believe I know everyone at the table. Dan Olson with the school district, and our design team was at the Plan Commission meeting and presented everything that evening, so I'll be glad to answer any questions that I can tonight if there are any.
I just want to say that I appreciate the site plan team in the packet now. It's easier to understand what's going on better.
Yeah, I noticed that addition also. That was helpful.
So there's 4 separate agenda items. I just going to take them one by one here. The rezone is the first one. Recommending approval to zone it to SR4, which is maybe a little counterintuitive, but that's what all the schools in the village are zoned. That, along with the conditional use permit, would approve the school as a use. That school use would be a conditional use regardless of what the underlying zoning district is. So there were no conditions on the approval.
Okay. Is there a motion on that one?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we rezone approximately 53.7 acres at 4490 Bus Road for RH Rural Holding to SR4 single. Oh, wait, am I on the right one? Yeah, single family residential.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Onward for more school stuff here. E was to discuss and consider the Monona Grove School District conditional use permit to allow an elementary school indoor institutional land use at 4490 Bus Road.
Recommend approval of this as well, the only condition being that it applies to the facilities as they're shown on the site plan. If there's any building expansions beyond what's shown or the athletic fields or anything like that, if that happens, then that may or may not trigger an amendment to it.
Okay. I'll make a motion then to approve the request from the Monona Grove School District for the conditional use permit for the elementary school at 4490 Bus Road.
Second.
Are you including the conditions?
And include the conditions, thank you. And you're okay with that? The conditions added to that motion in your second? Okay. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. And then item F is discuss and consider a request from North Grove School District for approval for the site plan for the new elementary school at 4490 Bus Road.
I'll make a motion to approve site plan for the elementary school at 4490 Bus Road.
With conditions? There are a few.
Yeah, if you want to reference again the village action report, that would be my conditions anyway.
Yeah.
There are quite a few.
Yeah. That's, I'll second that then.
I'm
Yeah.
just curious if there are any concerns with the conditions?
No
from the
concerns.
school's
Really?
perspective?
Okay, good.
So the conditions include the 60-foot wide easement in the northeast portion. Did we decide that's enough room for a road to connect, or is that kind of still in 60-foot going to provide enough space for that?
I think it has to vary with the outcome of a meeting with the residents along there, because it would convert those existing homes that are already occupied into corner lots. So whether that works or an outlot maintained by the school district, I think is the other option.
Okay, so
So-
we're not locked into the 60-foot like
No.
specific,
correct.
it's based on an outcome with a neighborhood meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
And that'll get incorporated into the developer
In the
agreement.
developer agreement? Okay.
And that was discussed at Plan Commission.
Mhm.
All right, we have a motion second. Any further discussion? Any questions? All right, having heard then, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Can we really say?
Sorry. My brain is still driving 6 hours with my daughter. All right, anybody opposed?
Sure, aye.
Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Sorry about that, guys. Just Heidi hit me in the back of the head. You start the brain neurons firing again.
Yeah, Lisa's not here.
Yeah, she keeps me on my toes. Discussing, consider the Monona Grove School District approval for a certified survey map for the approximate 53.7 acres at 4490 Bus Road.
Again, we recommend approval with the conditions in the village action report. I think the main one is one that Mike had, just that the CSN doesn't get recorded until the easement road issue is figured out.
I'll make a motion to approve the certified survey map for the approximately 53.7 acres at 4490 Bus Road.
I'll second.
Okay, motion second. Any further discussion? Having heard then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Thanks, Dan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll get some meetings scheduled to discuss the developer agreement.
Super.
Okay.
Thanks, Dan.
All right. Now to keep us all on our toes, we'll move back up to unfinished business to discuss the village board list of priorities, and Matt had a thing in our packet regarding that.
Yes, thought if you guys would like to continue the process a little bit, and we can, at the next meeting, look at the number 2 priority. This is the number 1 priority, and, you know, try to get at least the top 4 or 5 a little bit more ironed down. And then I thought it'd be beneficial for the priorities that have direct ties to already pre-established performance objectives or goals, to provide those, so you can all see what's, you know, already being worked on. And much of that is pretty closely aligned with many of the ideas that board members have already put forth during the process. So that can be discussed, and also if there are other items you'd like to add to that, that certainly we can consider when we do performance reviews towards the end of this year, to continue that. that could be done as well as any, if there's something in the short term that you think would be worthwhile, we can look into that as well, but then we should probably maybe take something else off the plate if we're gonna add something. But any comments to that or
No,
discussion?
I like everything you've got listed here. In regards to the CDA, to prepare a marketing project plan for the 2020 budgets, that's something you and I will be looking at when we get closer to budget time.
One thing that I kind of listed out in my priorities to help encourage people to use different types of transportation to get around town, and then kind of encourage them to visit our local businesses that are here. I think the bike paths that are going in and the bike lane and Cottage Grove Road going in, but like streetscape improvements, and I know that then requires upfront cost and maintenance cost, but I don't know if that's something we can look into doing, or in Commerce Park even, like planting trees there, and we might be waiting on some of it
Sure.
until it fills in to kind of know what a site plan would be before anything was planted, but I don't know.
I think Aaron and I could discuss that with JJ. JJ is actually kind of, he's been kind of looking at various beautification is kind of what,
Yeah.
just a broader category,
Mhm.
beautification type projects. So, yeah.
All right, cool.
We haven't heard anything about the marketing effort and assessment for the TID 10 yet.
No, they're still
Still
working on that. We hope that's done within the next month, certainly, because we need, so it's not just, it's more of an overall master plan, so we get an idea of the overall scope of engineering and public improvement efforts out there, and we need that information to apply for the urban service area amendment so we can extend utilities out there. And that's a 3-month process to 90-day process to get that approved. So hopefully that comes soon. They'll be presenting that to the CDA, and then any recommendations CDA will make to the board.
Okay.
So.
We did have a progress meeting with them a week or two ago, and they are definitely working on it. They just want to fine tune it before they bring it in.
Okay. And that obviously may spill into 2020 then for goals, and certainly
We're
we want
still
to get that for budget and everything else for that process.
Yeah, I'd say the full process as far as, because part of it is also they're going to want to make a TIF request for whatever the first phase of the development will be, and then that'll also go through a process. So we're probably talking on the short end 3 months, on the long end 5 months.
Yeah.
So we still could maybe get it all done this year, but we're
No, I wasn't expecting it would be done this year. I was
Sure.
more expecting that there may be goals associated with that plan
Mhm.
through the CDA and everything that spill into either staff or the CEA or even the board perhaps.
Yep.
And there might be a budget impact too as well as far as certain things that we need to do, maybe around marketing or something like that, based on the recommendations. Any other comments, questions?
There's no action needed. We can just
No, I know.
next meeting. I'll
More-
do the next one and just continue from there.
Very good. Item C then is discuss and consider the proposal for modifications to the Flynn Hall agreement. We tabled this on July 1st, so the first thing we have to do is actually remove it from the table. So I'll make a motion to remove it from the table.
I'll second it.
It's motion second then to remove this item from the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? You abstain? Motion carries. All right, so now we can actually discuss and consider. Deb included some information around the financial pieces for us in the packet around this. I don't know if you want to comment on that, Deb? Or?
It's pretty straightforward. We get billed quarterly for utilities and janitor. That's pretty much all there is. Insurance once a year. And it ties to the numbers that the town had provided in the financials that show the income and expenses as well. So you know, we pay the day-to-day expenses. What we don't or haven't contributed to is any capital projects that they may be doing. If there's a bunch of those, and if we choose to continue, I would suggest trying to set up a savings type plan, kind of like we do with the emergency government building, to lessen the impact of any large ones that may be coming up. But again, that all depends on what decision is made.
Does
John?
does the Flint Hall Committee decide what projects they take on? Like, do we jointly decide? I can't remember.
There's a committee, and I think there's 2 citizen members. I didn't recognize either of them. I don't think we've ever received a report back, in my experience. I think where we left it with the joint meeting is they would be open to revenue sharing, which I think everyone saw those numbers, as long as we contribute to the capital improvements. And personally, I don't see the value with sharing the revenue if we're asked to replace a heater, HVAC system, whatever it may be.
Who decides when you need I mean, obviously if it breaks, then you know you need a replacement, but like when to refinish the floors, does the committee decide? I don't know who's on the.
Do we have we don't have a representative?
We don't have a
Oh, we don't.
representative.
Well, we do, but we don't really know them.
It's citizen members.
Oh.
There's
Two
no
citizen
board.
members, I think,
There's no
right?
board member.
As long as we know
Oh, they're two
Yeah.
village
when it is. I
citizen
don't know if
members.
I've ever seen
Got it.
Posting.
a meeting posted.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was last time.
They only meet
Once a year.
once a year, I think.
Well, I had a question.
Yes, Lee, please.
If, what is meant by repair and maintenance? Because it does call for contribution to maintenance, but maintenance isn't really defined anywhere. And so this talks about regular maintenance, and I don't know if that just means on the inside or what is encompassed by that. That was one question I had. And I also had a question about, in terms of where we were asked, would we provide space for groups? But if we pulled out, I didn't quite understand why those groups would leave.
That was unclear, but that was brought up at the joint meeting. I think the gist of that was, hey, if then the town's only providing space, can the village provide space for these dozen or so, some of these dozen or so groups? I think that's where it was. Yeah.
And I think some questions that I'd ask at the joint meeting was, last year, one of the items they talked about, which they didn't do, was sanding and floors and redoing.
Right.
We wouldn't be part of that as our end of it. They're also talking about blacktopping more in the back where there's gravel now. And again, if we do the revenue sharing, I'm assuming we would be part of paying that. And if we're not doing the revenue sharing, I almost feel like a 100-year-old building, 100 plus, we probably stand more risk from a maintenance standpoint doing a revenue sharing and having to pay for other items. I think the furnace is 6 or 8 years old, so that should be okay, but.
Has the town done capital repairs?
Yes.
Which is what they said at the joint meeting.
Yeah, I think
They've taken care of all those in the past.
3 or 4 years ago it was.
I think the town and the Lions Club.
Yeah, I thought,
The
I thought the Lions Club
chips in.
had done a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I know that the Lions have done several things to the building over the years. We did all the siding when they needed new siding. We're going to put a curb in along the concrete driveway.
We redid the kitchen.
We call those community projects, I guess.
Lee, what's your interpretation of the way that the contract is written around maintenance? Are you interpreting it that if it's considered maintenance, we need to chip in?
yeah.
But if it's considered
Well,
something else?
maintenance
capital?
in this
Yeah.
contract would be something different than it is in another contract. I just was looking through here and it just says regular maintenance. I'm assuming that that's regular indoor basic maintenance, but I don't know. It's not really defined.
Or should we be more specific what that means,
Yeah.
whether it be gas, sewer, cleaning, and that stuff? because again, the Lions rebuilt the kitchen 3, 4, 5 years ago. The town participated
And I
in
think
the
it'd
cost
be
of that
interesting
slightly, I think. but-
just to find out what the town has done, because, I mean, just talk, you know, from listening to the discussion here, I thought the Lions had done a lot of that.
We have.
Yeah.
Maybe if we want to limit liability on maintenance, you could say for maintenance items not, you know, not exceeding $1,000 or $2,000 or something like that, so we're not on the hook for some large capital maintenance item, if that makes sense.
Or you define it as just maintenance, these,
Right, or list
Keeping
the,
the
or
lights
list the
on.
specifics
Right,
of it, sure.
right.
keeping the floor
Yes.
screened.
It's almost like, should we say we'll help pay a third of utilities and insurance, as we do now, and delete that line that says maintenance? Because it is somewhat open to interpretation.
Yeah.
And you don't want assumptions, you want.
Yeah, we could even just list the way that Deb listed here, the categories: gas, electric, cleaning, sewer and water, and insurance. And those are the
4 things.
topics or the items we'll pay for. And
It just
strike-
kind of comes down to whether the village is, what the village gets for its involvement. And so that, and I was just asking, I was surprised to see that these other groups, well, are you going to provide space for them? Well, I didn't really think we would need to because they're already using the Flynn Hall.
You know, it's
But
gonna take-
I wasn't at the meeting, so I don't know. And I didn't watch the videotape either, so.
Well, it's just unfortunate more people don't utilize it.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
we're participating in the cost but
It's a 5-year agreement, is that right?
It's up at the end of this year, I think.
Right, and then, so it's to renew it for another 5 years.
I understand that it's an asset of sorts to our community, and so in that respect, I'm okay with renewing a contract, but I'd prefer it to be 2 years rather than 5 years. I think 5 years is a really long time, and then we can better gauge if our residents are continuing to use it. Because it looks like, I mean, it's gone up the past 2 years, and it looks like we're on pace to be the same. And if that continues, then I can see the benefit. But I mean, a lot of things can change in 5 years. So I would be open to a 2-year contract to continue it.
With the
Maybe with some
clarifications. on
Yeah.
the needs.
What, does the Lions Club also have to agree to the 2 years?
We would have to, yeah, because they're part of it.
Has the Lions Club had any conversations about the contract at all?
I know we had it a while ago when I was on the board, but I don't know what the current
Yeah.
board is talking about.
So are you making a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to continue the Flynn Hall agreement, the lease and cooperative use agreement regarding Flynn Hall for 2 years with line 2E regarding taking out the regular maintenance from E.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion second to continue the agreement regarding Flynn Hall for 2 years with the update around 2E maintenance. Are we
It's-
clarifying what that means?
Is just the removal of that line enough, or do we
Of
have to
just
further
regular.
clarify?
Of just regular maintenance from
Yeah.
2E. So it just includes then janitorial services.
The 4 things that are listed here.
What is
Gas,
that?
electric, cleaning, sewer, and water and insurance.
Currently help pay for janitorial
utilities and
services.
insurance, it comes down to.
So, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, that's part of cleaning, yeah.
So, we know where that falls in the contract? It's 2E?
2E.
I don't see it.
Reservation of,
It's on the top of page 4.
Page 4.
Oh, it's 3E.
Okay, 3E.
So I missed the 3.
I'll modify my second to be 3E.
To what is the modification?
To,
Okay. Okay, so,
Regular maintenance.
so it will read, operating cost shall include the cost for heat, electricity, water, insurance, and janitorial services.
Correct.
Okay,
That's what we're doing now. So.
right, and so just striking regular maintenance from that line. Perfect. Got it.
Does that legally clarify things better?
Yeah.
in your opinion?
I would, yeah, it does, that's fine. And I would just be curious to know what the breakdown is in terms of, what would we call them? The larger expenses, the stuff that you guys have been doing.
Yeah, the sanding the floor was like a 7,000 some odd
Yeah.
change bid last year. That
Yeah.
Again.
Didn't you, what about the roof? Didn't you guys have?
They said something about the roof coming.
The roof was about 10 years ago, and
Yeah.
they had people donate money for that.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think we provided any labor, did we, as a Lions Club? But I think we contributed to it, though,
Contributed.
just financially. There's a
Yeah.
plaque inside the building that has who contributed and stuff.
Right. And I just mean that it helps clarify the argument in terms of, well, if you take on these other expenses, but, just to know what those expenses really are or have been.
Yeah, and know that they mentioned the furnace. You did the doors, front and back. But beyond that, I don't know anything else.
And there's just one other place it says regular maintenance in the following paragraph. Yeah, right, you just strike regular maintenance from that paragraph.
from the whole E section.
From the whole E section,
The whole E section.
The
Careful,
whole
yeah.
3E section.
So we have a motion and second. Any further discussion in Flint Hall? And again, this is continuing for 2 years, assuming that the town will do that as well as the Lions. All those in favor then?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. All right, then we move on to new business. We have a couple operator licenses here on item A, discussing consider operator licenses for the licensing year of July 2019 through June 2020 for Abby and Nicholas. And they are with the distillery, I believe, right, from what I read. And there were no issues in the packet, at least. Chief, there's nothing that's changed on that?
No, they're passed.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the operating license for Abby and Nicholas Abramovich.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. All right, then item 9 is the reports from village boards, commissions, and committees. Public Works. The first one, we have discuss and consider a right-of-way permit request from Tetra Tech.
So a brief memo in your packet, followed by their right-of-way permit application and the materials they provided. This is another one of those that a year ago I probably would have turned around this permit pretty quickly myself, but given the area that this is, where these are proposed to be installed, we came to Public Works and then here to the board. Essentially, Tetra Tech does the monitoring work for Hydrite. They've been nothing but great to work with for the years I've been here. And they just want to install some temporary monitoring wells. They have permanent monitoring wells all over the area over there. But they want to just do some investigation on groundwater and soil. So they want to install these temporary monitoring wells in the right-of-way. Talked with Sean, and the ones proposed for Houston Park there are fine. They'll be out of the way of anything they have going on. The other locations are fine, and the direction I got from Public Works was to over-communicate. So assuming approval tonight, there will be letters, actually just hand-delivered to the 3 homes here. And then we'll just make sure that everybody's aware of what they are that they are temporary and that they will be removed on or before November 6, 2019. So, if there's any questions?
Is there any concern that the well or the gas is not good?
I don't know.
Okay.
They're constantly monitoring, so honestly, it's a good thing that they're taking a look.
Right.
They do have monitoring wells, gosh, probably just a few hundred feet from here already that are part of their ongoing monitoring of the groundwater. So I think they're just taking a look a little broader, and we'll learn more after the temporary wells.
I could see that being a question of those homeowners.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
How high does it stick out?
Actually, they'll be flush mount, everything will be, and they're, even the permanent, I mean, they're semi-permanent, they're gonna be there probably for decades, but their monitoring wells are only like that. We have them in the road, in the right of way, in terraces, so I don't think, most people don't notice them, but there's a little higher visibility right now.
Yeah, I never noticed the pedestals either.
I see them in my sleep.
That's the conversation in Public Works.
So they would notify the citizens then, JJ, before they started? Any citizens affected, they would notify them then?
I'm gonna notify basically the 3 homes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yep, just let them know.
Well, I feel confident they're gonna get notified now.
Yep.
I mean, counted on our outside folks doing, they haven't done a very good job.
I figured I can hand deliver some letters and ring the doorbell. If they're not there, the letter will be here.
Yeah.
Yep,
So then they'll repair any area with
Yeah.
like sod or something?
yeah. And like I said, they've been, we just had a broken lid my first year here. And once I figured out the contact, who to call, they fixed it within an hour. They had somebody here. I mean, they're not even local, so.
How close is that to the hydraulic barrier?
It's, well, let's see, the closest hydraulic barrier one's quite a ways away, but this is part of the monitoring they do as part of that.
Yeah. Okay.
So the actual pump, the nearest pumping one is a ways away.
I move to approve the road permit request from TerraTech.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. I don't know if there's anything else of note in Public Works. We had updates.
A lot of updates.
Bike path, everybody can see what's going on there. Conservancy wetland scrape, it's pretty much all growing green now, and water is flowing. Construction of Cottage Road, there are updates going to the businesses now, as well as we had the electronic sign changed and some other things associated with that. We all know that the Marketplace Days is this weekend, so that's hopefully we'll have 2 paved lanes by then.
And I think, John, maybe if I don't mind me interrupting, and for all board members, if you get people that have concerns about the road construction, obviously, it can be directed to JJ, but if it's a concern about, it's great weather and they're not out there working, that they are under a contract and they probably have other projects around that have maybe a deadline that's sooner than ours, so then they have to prioritize, and they might leave our project one day and, we can't make them come into work. They have deadlines they have to meet for us, but, as long as they're within those deadlines, I guess it's just reminding people that we have a contract and we're not their boss.
Right.
We have inspectors on the project.
And there's other sub things that need to be sometimes choreographed before things can happen with major crews.
So it's difficult, JJ sends regular updates, and it's always weather pending, but it's also dependent on the contractor's personal schedule. They might decide to send their crew somewhere else that day, and we can, if they're not meeting our deadlines, there's penalties that we can put in place, but if they're within the contract, we can't. So
what is the scheduled date?
Essentially, it's the third week of August for BB, I believe, and the bike path is 1 week after that. So
Okay.
but if weather cooperates, they're both still in good shape that way.
Other items in Public Works, this one's going to be a an interesting one. We covered the right-of-way, but there's a little issue with compost with the county level, which impacts all of the county municipalities. By meaning the issue is they won't be taking compost next year, 2020, going forward. So we had an initial discussion about what are we going to do with the grass clippings and the garden waste and everything that folks have. So they're still looking at options right now, continuing that discussion. So this was something that JJ just found out real recently. We got it on the agenda. We talked about a number of things from, getting individual compost units for people that can have them on their property, little barrels or bins or whatever you can compost yourself, to working with private contractors that may need compost, to creating our own compost. And we're probably going to be all in with everything because we do produce a lot of materials. So JJ's working through the numbers as far as what the cost is and where we can dispose this if we didn't have an option locally here. And so there's more to come on that little gem. So that was buried in the new business, but that's a pretty big item because it could impact our budget.
And that decision's been finalized by the county? We can't talk to our county supervisor?
Well, I've also been making phone calls about it, and initially when I talked with John Welch, who runs the landfill, he indicated that the city of Sun Prairie takes their compost there in addition to like 10 or 12 other municipalities. And I just heard, that concerned me because the county is pushing the cleaning of the lakes and keeping leaves out of the stormwater to prevent phosphorus from getting to the lakes and causing all this big hassle that it has. And so if you took away the composting for the landfill from these municipalities, then you're kind of sending off the message that you don't really care about the lakes. You're sending the different message than what's intended. And so I talked with him about that, and then I talked with the director of the Land and Water Resources, and this was all right before the 4th of July weekend, so it's been a little slow. With people being able to talk to who they need to think about what else can be done on the county level instead. And then John got back to me last week, like Friday, I think, afternoon, and he indicated that that there's only 3 or 4 municipalities now in the city of Sun Prairie, and they'll be sending out letters and to those municipalities with training available so that you know how to compost effectively and reasonably so that you prevent leaves from going into the stormwater, basically. So I haven't been able to follow up with Laura to find out additional information from her end, and so
there's
the county supervisor is working on it as well.
So their suggestion, the county suggestion is that each municipality do their own composting.
Yeah, which all the municipalities that do currently use the landfill are on the east side of the county because the landfill's closer to our side of the county. So all the other municipalities have already figured out what they're doing, and like towns, like the town of Pleasant Springs, they have their own property where their residents can take the compost and they staff it, I think once a month on a weekend or something like that. I don't know the specifics, but that's another issue, that it needs to be staffed if we have residents taking their compost to a site, but I don't know where in the village we'd have a site.
But we don't staff the current place we bring it.
To put leaves in the truck.
Well, I mean, just to.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it's an empty lot of land, people are more likely to just bring whatever there than a truck.
Yeah, we get a fair amount of whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't you already get some whatever?
But and that's in a fairly well-lit parking lot, so I'd be a little hesitant to leave it up.
And there may or may not be surveillance.
Right.
So close.
So
yeah.
more to come from the county and more to talk about it. That's certainly a couple. So I think there's we can probably hit this with a number of different things to try to reduce the amount that we're actually even have to handle. That would be a good thing in itself. Mulching mowers to, like, say, individual composting units, et cetera. We can encourage citizens to take action on their own. And we compost at our house, and it's great stuff we use in our gardens. But again, people don't have that option, maybe.
So bring it to your house.
Good one.
But people bring
little
their
units.
leaves. That's where your leaves go,
Yep.
unless you do something with them yourself. So there's some neighborhoods that'll be really affected by that have
Mature
a bunch
trees.
of mature trees. My neighborhood, you have about 15 leaves, but
We can bring our leaves to your area.
Yeah.
All blown at the community park. More to come on that.
Yes,
and I
it's
just wanted
it's a
to-
doozy for a bunch of reasons, yes.
Yeah, okay. So rest assured, there's a lot of people working on that one, which is good. Next one is, there's no questions.
Can I just ask about Cottage Grove Road? So I know we're under contract and, the goal is to be finished by the 3rd of August, whichever date is on there. Is it gonna be ready to go by this weekend? Any indications for Marketplace Days?
I find that everybody's definition of ready to go is different. What do you mean?
Paved?
As of right now, again, tentative on a million different things. They do plan to bring in the paving Wednesday and Thursday. And I know that the project manager for Payne and Dolan's goal is to have all those north lanes completely paved,
Okay.
both levels. The plan is not to open up all 4 lanes though. And then it's a separate subcontractor that does the traffic control. If that goes perfectly, they have a tentative plan to change traffic over either Thursday. They said Saturday is an option, but I don't see it on their project plan. Is anybody doing anything Saturday and or Monday to shift traffic to the other side?
Yep. And then with Marketplace Days, I mean, they're putting a lot of the people over at the church across the road, so having that construction on that Saturday, I don't think would be conducive to the event.
I've
But it's
expressed
just
that.
tracking that it's gonna be paved, so.
I've expressed that to them, but again, our hands are tied as to what we can make them do.
Thank you for encouraging them.
Strongly.
Strongly, yeah. Move on then.
oh, can we get back on? So it's a Dane County Highway. Discuss meeting with Dane County Highway on the Public Works agenda. Was there anything interesting? from that?
Yes, that'll be coming up more here within the next month and a half with financial management plan talks. But basically, how Dane County met with us to talk about plans for our portion of BB Improvements West, anything we're going to plan to do to end to the north, and then we discussed TT. They're going to do that themselves, and anything we do out in the TID on TT would be our own project. But we're basically going to be cost sharing anything we do on N North or BB on our half of the Shady Grove requirements there in 2021. So, yep, but there'll be more specifics on that.
And north of the roundabouts.
Yep. Yep, which I think that may be out 2022 or 2023.
And so cost sharing, then the county gives it to the village.
Nope, that was the best part of that meeting. They will keep them both, BB and.
Yeah. Only if it's both, only if it's in the village on both sides of the street. Contiguously, will they turn it over to the, do a jurisdictional transfer, it's called.
Unless we want it, which I said no.
Thank you, but no thank you. Exciting.
So any annexation, we have to wait until that project's done, so that.
I suppose then they could probably, not sure how it would work retroactively.
All right, then we'll move on to, thanks, JJ. Move on to our Joint Review Board. This is the, I don't know if you want to, Aaron, you want to cover this or?
This was the final vote on the TID 10 project plan amendment, and it was approved.
And Deb did it's an annual, just a summary of kind of our cash flows of our TIDs for the purposes of information for the Joint Review Board members.
Yeah, so that's TID 5, 6, and 7, and next year we'll add on to that for 8, 9, and 10 is what that goes. So we'll be in full force for that time, then have that analysis of the PE 300 reports, which is something new. So, then we'll move on then to Emergency Government Committee.
Yep, so we met last July 9th. And we made a couple decisions. One is we're going to purchase a new computer using the money that Hydrite gave us. So we need to replace that computer downstairs. So Chief Lang was going to work on buying that with the money from Hydrite. We also decided on going forward and adding some electrical poles that would make it more accessible to plug things in from the table, so we don't have cords going to the wall. There will be electric poles that we can plug into. And then there was a representative there from Astor Assisted Living. And so what we discovered is that we need to have further planning with Astor in addition to some of the other senior living facilities in Cottage Grove. And so we're going to be in touch with them just to talk through how we're going to help make sure that their residents get to safety as needed. And we're thinking about actually doing a tabletop event with the Astor and the senior living communities as our event for the year or into next year. So.
Okay. Then we'll move on to Utility Commission.
Okay, so we heard from the Homburgs. Andrew was there to talk about some updates to West Lawn 5th Edition, which some of you may have heard at another committee. We had to move some things around because of rock underground. We talked about the sanitary survey report, which is a report with a DNR that JJ files, or they report on us. And the one deficiency is something we're taking care of. It's a cross-connection control program with our larger water services. So that will come off the report. We approved implementing that a couple months ago. And then I also wanted to say that we should welcome Kristen Krause as the utility clerk, so we can congratulate her on her new role with the village. And she's going to be learning lots of little details about her new role. So welcome, Kristen. And then I guess the only other thing back on the survey report, this might be something that might have to be coordinated with the emergency response plan. Because in 2018, there was a new act signed into law about systems that serve 3,300 people or more, and their risk assessments and emergency response plans with water utilities. So I'm sure there will be more information coming, and there's already something in place, but we might have to change it to become in compliance with that act. So just kind of cross-committee thing. And that's pretty much the main thing for utility. Our next meeting's August 14th at 5:15.
Oh, super. We already covered Planning Commission. And then we move on to item 10, which is a report from village officers. Melissa has an update from Bean County Community Development Block Grant. Oh, thank you. Handouts.
Thank you. Yeah, I just thought that since this came up at the county board, it's a resolution that the supervisors can sign on to if they so choose, and then it goes to a committee. This one will go to the Personnel and Finance Committee, which meets on a Monday coming up here. And then if it gets approved there, then it goes back for the full board approval, which is August 15th. And a couple of the supervisors did come up to me and indicated that they thought it was great that we were going to be a part of it. And so I just thought you might like to see the resolution and the end of back is the policy and fiscal note that shows no budget effect for the county, just gives more participation rate for county and local government, so that we can have a more comprehensive approach.
Thank you, Melissa. And then we have Attorney Lee Boucher, legal briefings and status updates.
Last time, and Troy, I'll make sure you get a copy of what I passed out. It was in terms of dealing with developers and that kind of thing. And I'm working on some other items to give out that deal with open meetings law, open records law. In August, I'll have a copy of the newly revised open meetings law and open records law. And I have to decide what color to use. Each year it's a different color to see. But they're very useful if you have a question, sometimes in terms of, do I have a conflict, don't I have a conflict, and you want to get some background information, those are certainly helpful. That's it.
Okay, excellent. Item 11 is communication can't even say it, miscellaneous. I'm going downhill fast. Consider approval of vouchers. Are there any questions, comments about the vouchers?
So there was a flat tire up there, 3 of them?
Constant. You'll probably see them on the next one. Yes. A lot of tires.
On page,
Running over nails?
And actually, I think if I don't know the specifics on that one, and I probably won't be able to tell from the business, but a lot of them in the summer are on mowers when they hit different things. Sometimes even little metal locating flags get just the right angle if the guys don't, pull them off. But I don't know the specifics, but I know we do a lot of tires this time of year especially.
quick question on page 3 under the computer magic. What kind of thing gets done that's got a charge of like $13.84? So do they do like extensive repair on a computer, or is that a new computer? What would that be?
13,000
Yeah, 1,384, like 1,384.
Oh, that,
is their description?
it's a service agreement, so those
Okay.
are,
Oh.
those are all different funds.
Okay.
So that's,
What is that? I just
anyway, there's 5 different categories within a general fund that chip in towards the service agreement.
Okay.
And then there's one for water, one for sewer. So their total retainer that we're paying in this bill is the total you see there, the about 3,500.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's not a specific item, it's the service agreement.
I move to approve.
Motion, is there a second? Motion second to approve the vouchers as presented. All those in favor, or any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstained? Motion carries. Correspondence, I didn't have anything. Matt,
No, nothing for correspondence.
okay. Upcoming community events, we certainly have Marketplace Days this weekend for sure. That's on Saturday.
We're covered pretty well in the morning, but if anybody from the board would like to join in our booth in the afternoon, that would be appreciated. Doing things such as promoting Polco, voter registration. PD will have some stuff to give away.
What time, Matt?
It's from 9 till 2.
And you
But
need help?
primarily noon to 2 would be when we would have the least amount of people.
So think cool thoughts
Yeah.
for everybody there at 93 degrees.
People plan on attending, I know they're looking for some additional volunteers for tear down between 2 and 3.
Okay.
That's part of the day, but the more volunteers that we're going to have.
If anyone wants to paint a kindness rock, I'll be at the Optimist Club booth helping kids paint those.
And adults.
And adults. You can put a kindness rock in your yard.
That's a great idea. Other community events coming up? That one that's front of mind right now. But next couple weeks. All right, and we'll move on to future agenda items.
We could put the full spectrum solar on, get in touch with him and we'll create some more backup plans in case we have more technology problems.
Okay. Anything else from any other?
I noticed that, do you have a meeting coming up with Mayor Satya?
Yes, later this week.
Maybe an update on.
I'll give an update on it, yeah.
From her?
The next priority item?
Yes.
We can put that together for the next one.
And the usual suspects.
What happens on Labor Day? I don't remember. We don't have a meeting on Labor Day, right?
Correct. And depends on what would be coming forward. We could, sometimes we've scheduled it for that the Thursday of that week. However, you get much beyond that and there's another meeting in a week and a half. So probably most of the time we've just skipped it, but it kind of depends. If there's a really important development item that needs to be approved, other than that, we probably would skip it. But if it's something really important, we'll try to reschedule it. But otherwise, yeah, if a board meeting lands on a holiday, we certainly don't meet that day.
We all show up.
We'll all bring our barbecues. All right, now we have, I'll make a motion then for the village board, excuse me, I gotta stop it.
Been on the road too
Is that a lot of
long.
reading? Do you want me to read this?
No, I've been, this too much today, sorry guys, and way too early. So I'll make a motion for the Village of Cottage Grove Village Board will enter in a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, parentheses 1, parentheses E, deliberating and negotiating purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, conducting other specific public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. This closed session is for negotiation of TID 10 and TID number 5.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. This is a roll call vote.
Allen?
Aye.
Lundberg?
Aye.
Murphy?
Aye.
Ratcliffe?
Aye.
Russell?
Aye.
Valencia?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
She knows her name.
I can read it.